Good evening and happy Small Business Week, if you didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I didn't know that, to be honest with you.
For more than 60 years, the United States Small Business Administration has celebrated National Small Business Week, which acknowledges the critical contributions of America's entrepreneurs and small business owners
Hmm.
like you.
Yeah,
So, how appropriate is it that we're holding this meeting today?
very nice.
Let me start with a simple question for you to ponder. As a business owner, how often does your success depend not just on what you do, but how well you communicate? Whether it's pitching an idea, leading a team, handling difficult clients, negotiating partnerships, or inspiring trust. Your words, presence, and clarity often make the difference between momentum and missed opportunity. That's why we're here tonight. Toastmasters is one of the most powerful organizations in the world for developing communication and leadership skills. It teaches people how to speak clearly, think on their feet, and lead with confidence. But business owners face a different set of challenges that most traditional Toastmasters don't get to experience in a standard club. In business, you're not just giving speeches, you're selling a vision and value. You're making high stake decisions. You're handling conflicts and objections. You communicate under pressure, and you absolutely represent your brand every time you speak. Many business owners join Standard Toastmasters Club and quickly realize something's missing. There's a gap between learning how to give a polished speech and learning how to communicate effectively as a business owner. Don't get me wrong, traditional Toastmaster clubs are fantastic. I belong to several, but they are often geared towards general speaking confidence, professional and academic presentations, or personal development goals. What they don't always address are the specific communication needs of business owners, such as delivering persuasive investor or client presentations, communicating brand messaging, leading difficult conversations with employees and partners, speaking with authority without sounding scripted, thinking strategically while communicating emotionally, meaning deciding with logic and long term intent, speaking in a way that connects with people's feelings. That's the gap this specialty club is designed to bridge. To help us understand the importance of communication in business, we have a very special guest who will share with us a valuable lesson in business communication. Danny Wood is a certified Sandler trainer, is one of New Jersey's most respected experts in sales and management. Danny's work is noted for providing his clients with the ability to realize additional revenue and business that would otherwise never materialize and would have been lost to competitors. He is uniquely positioned to impact an organization's productivity and long term success, promoting a healthy, productive, and meaningful work culture. Danny Wood Enterprises specializes in working with business owners, CEOs, and senior managers to maximize the return on what is often their most underutilized resource, the sales team. Toastmasters, let's welcome Danny Wood.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Wow. Now I know why you're the district manager and why you must have been a member for a long time. That was fantastic. It really was. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your introduction and your introduction of Toastmasters. So yeah, so I'm going to, if it's okay with you, could you share the screen and I will, let's see, am I able to share? Oh, I am able to share already. We're one step ahead of the game here. All right. All right. So yeah, so thank you so much. So I'm Danny Wood with Sandler Training. We specialize in sales and sales management and business development training for entrepreneurial-driven companies and professional firms. The folks that I work with, they're very smart, they're very good at what they do. In fact, many of them are growing year after year, but they're frustrated that they don't have enough new opportunities in their pipeline. Often they may have opportunities in the pipeline, but they're making out quotes and proposals. They have what we call happy ears. They're making quotes to everybody, hoping that they get the business. And very often it ends up in hands of competitors, or they just don't get, or they get ghosted and they don't hear at all from their prospects. Other times they do close, but they have to cut price, and they're frustrated because they don't make the margin that they really need to sustain a successful business. So our approach is to help them incrementally, a little bit at a time, over a long period of time. It's like training a musician or an athlete, right? You don't get in shape in a day. You don't learn a musical instrument in a day. So that's what we do. I've been doing this for 26 years. Prior to that, I was in the clothing business. I was selling apparel to retailers. So I'm going to talk today about the importance of communication skills in business, elevating and differentiating yourself. And this is a module. You'll see here where I'm going in a moment, because if you can't communicate, but basically Sandler is a selling system, but it's based on a communication system. So I'm going to give you an overview of that system, and I'm happy to answer any questions along the way, or I could just go for my 20 minutes and then we can have a Q&A after, whichever you prefer. It's a small group, so whatever you're most comfortable. If you had something that you wanted to say, could be interesting that way as well, right? Instead of me just blowing and going, as we say. So let me get started. So we're going to talk about the importance of chemistry. Chemistry, and I'm going to ask you what your definition of chemistry is here in just a moment. And there was an interesting quote that I said yesterday about business moves at the speed of relationships. It's all about relationships, right? It's all about connecting with people, communicating with people. And the very first step, this is our selling system. This is our communication system. And you mentioned, Pamela, earlier about maybe we need to negotiate, what's interesting is that if you follow this system, you really don't have to negotiate, because negotiation comes if you don't get the business, you don't get the sale, you don't influence somebody. So what I want to suggest here, and we have a program on negotiating as well, and we can certainly talk about some of those things. But I want you to see, obviously, is that the very first step is communicating in our flywheel. So is it okay if I'm putting, I guess, I'm not going to say a sales spin, but what I am talking about is, do we all need to get clients, right? Marcia, for your business, and Bruce, for yours? I mean, you're looking to obtain more clients. Is that a fair statement? Yeah? Okay. So you're going to see things here that typically what happens is somebody, when they take this program, they're like, Danny, like I'm having a better relationship with my family, with my spouse, with my coworkers. I'm just, it's helped me so much more than just building my pipeline and closing business, which it does. So communication is where we're going to focus. And that's the first step. Because if you don't communicate well, when you go to our other steps, you can't close. Here's closing. Closing is all the way over here. First, we need to communicate. And I'll go over those steps with you, how. Then we have what we call an upfront contract. Both of these things are personal chemistry and comfort. That's what this step is doing, is creating personal chemistry and comfort first. Fair to say, if you don't create chemistry and comfort in the beginning, there is no prospect around at closing time. And the interesting thing is, it's good to be nice. Nice people, good salespeople are nice people, but not all nice people are good salespeople. Next, just to give you this overview, and then I'm going to get right into communication. An overview of the system, creating personal chemistry and comfort, setting the ground rules for what this conversation, this interaction is going to include, and the decisions that are to be made. So if I were to meet you, Bruce, and we were talking about some of your wellness training or coaching, right? The purpose of our call today would be to see if my wellness coaching would be something that would make sense for you. I'm sure you're going to have questions for me. I'm certainly going to have some for you. And what we could do together is figure out if this would make sense or not. And if it doesn't, Bruce, I hope you'd be okay telling me there's no fit here. Could you do that, Bruce? Would that be okay? And tell me there's not a fit? Equally as important, thank you, equally as important, if we do think there's a fit, let's figure out what the next steps would be at the end of our conversation. And that's typically means, right, and you could pick whatever you like, but I see I'm setting the ground rules for our conversation. And I'm giving you the opportunity to say no. Because the more you give somebody the opportunity to say no, the more they say yes. But I don't want to use it as a technique to manipulate the yes. I'm using it because that's real. Because it makes people feel safe. And when people feel that they have to buy something and they don't have an out, they're very resistant. And they don't listen. So what we do is we set these two steps are creating the relationship. Then what we want to do, now you mentioned earlier, Pamela, you mentioned emotion. We want to look for pain, not be the pain, and not even say, hey, Marcia, what's your pain? See, I have to earn it. I have to earn your trust for you to trust me to share and open up about the issues for both of you, right, that the businesses you're in, to share the challenges that people might have. And so then I can share my pain if I do these. I have to earn it. And then I can talk about money, because so many people always come and they say, well, what about price? Everything's price, 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 price. But that's not what today is about. Today we're going to talk about chemistry, but I want you to see the overview of our system. You have to create comfort and trust if somebody's going to share their pain with you, if they're going to share their budget with you. People always say, I'm not going to share my budget with you. I don't trust you. You're going to charge me a higher price. We have to do these two steps correctly. And what's their process for making a decision? How do you go about making a decision on moving forward on this type of coaching that you offer? And then we present. The presentation is not in the beginning. What do you do? How well do you do it? Let me show you. That's not how to do it. You have to first what we call qualify. Do they have pain? Do they have the money? What's their process for making a decision? That's qualifying. And then we move to closing. We will present. Let's talk here a little bit about chemistry. Was that helpful at all, by the way? Anything there that did it make sense, or yeah? Okay. How would you define personal chemistry between two people? Maybe we could just get a couple answers here. How would you define personal chemistry? Anybody? Mark, Stephen, you're in. Whatever you like to say.
Continuity in the thought process.
What's that?
Thinking on the same level and the same thought process.
Okay, same thought process is good. What else? I love it.
Building rapport.
Building rapport. Absolutely. Building rapport. And building rapport as you'll see in a few minutes, differently than everybody else. A feeling that you belong together. I like it. A feeling that we belong together. And what happens when you have good chemistry? What are the great things that happen? What happens when you create good chemistry? What happens as a result of that in your meetings or with your staff or family?
I think you build trust.
Mm-hmm. You build
Tend to
trust.
open up more.
What's that?
Tend to open up more and provide more information.
That's right. See, everybody knows that trust is important, but people really don't know how to build trust. People say things like, "Hey, Pamela, trust me." Oh, sure, trust me. That's not building trust. So we're going to talk about a few different elements here. We're going to talk about, actually, I'm going to talk about three. I took one away just for time purposes. But we're going to talk about verbal and nonverbal communication, something called pattern interrupt, and we'll talk about DISC. Has anybody here ever taken a DISC assessment? Okay, no? Okay, good. So we'll talk about that for a couple minutes. You know, there's three elements of communication. And by the way, am I getting I am so sorry. Eileen, you're there, and my screen didn't show you. So here I am. I'm saying, hey, Bruce, hey, Marcia, hey, Steve, and so I want to be able to include you as well. And now your name is there on the screen. So I want you to feel comfortable with anything you would have to say as well, please.
Sure. Thank you, Benny.
Okay, it was my fault there. So, we're so hung up on the words that we say that, oh my, did I say the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Words are 7% of effective communication when emotion is involved. 7%. Tonality is 38%. How you say it is more important than the words you say. And then body language. Body language is 55% of communication. And it's important. Nothing against you, Eileen, by any means. Body language, when you get to see people and you have the screen and you have your camera on, you're able to see people. I deal with a lot of companies and they say, my buyers or my people, they don't put on their screen. And, I just ask them, But you do see when you have, many people have a valid reason, why not? It's fine. But point is, even face to face, even being in front of somebody, getting together with somebody, body language is 55% of effective communication. So, in the nonverbal, you want to make sure it sounds so simple, but you do want to make sure that you have eye contact with people, your facial expressions, your posture, movement, gestures, your physical appearance. Your physical appearance matters. Mirror and match who your buyer is going to be. I have some companies that say, I don't know how to get my employees out of wearing hoodies all the time now. And we're selling corporate people. And they're at home and they're used to it and they got comfortable during COVID and it's an issue, right? But they need to. And then there's the verbal, there's the spoken words, the volume in which you speak, the pitch, your pace, do you articulate? And what you want to do is mirror and match. Has anybody heard of mirror and matching before, right? Mirror and matching is very important and people don't see it. It's called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And what we're looking to do, but before Sirius Radio, where you could drive anywhere and everything has a pretty clear station. But when you have your FM on and you drive 25 miles away and all of a sudden there's like, right? We're not on the same wavelength as somebody. And we're looking to do, if you want to get on the same wavelength as somebody, mirror and match them. Their body language, their tonality, even the words that they say. Don't mimic them, but find the words that they say and mirror and match them. Because people buy from people who they like, and people like people who are like who?
Themselves.
Like themselves. The more, and that's what we're going to do here, the more I can be like you, the more that you just get this feeling that we belong together. We talked about bonding and rapport. Hey, I get it. We're aligned. We're the same vibe. So, I had a client who used to say over 20 years, and he used to say when I first met him, Dan, in life, and I just started to say, Jim, in life, here's how I see it. He never knew it. We did business long time. And I gave this lesson to his company. He was the president of a new company. And I said, for example, Jim here, he always says in life. He said, I don't say that. His right-hand person said, you absolutely do. Mirror and match. Mirror and match body language, tonality, feeling that you belong together. And, communication is a two-way activity. Does everyone listen to you the same degree? Everybody always says, I need to listen more. I'm a good listener. That's my strength. And then when you try and have a conversation with them, they're not listening at all. We have what we call the 70-30 rule. Your prospect or your employee should be speaking 70% of the time. You should be speaking 30. How do you get people to talk 70% of the time and you talk 30% of the time?
Ask interesting questions.
Very good, Stephen. You're reading some good books. You have to ask the questions, right? You have to ask the questions. Some are open-ended, sure. And we have different templates and pain funnels and things to ask, but you have to be curious. Go out with a childlike curiosity to learn. What feelings are evoked when you think someone's not listening to you? How do you feel? Does it matter?
I feel like they're not interested in me.
Not interested?
Mhm.
In Steve Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he said, people have a need to be heard. There's the water we drink, the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the need to be heard. That's how important it is. And I could tell you, I was on with a woman the other day, networking, getting to know each other. You need to meet you. You need to meet. And I could tell after she was done, her eyes were answering emails. She's trying to gain trust, Pamela. Do we trust people who do that? Are you really listening? See, there's 3 kinds of listeners: combative or competitive. They listen and they're ready to fight back. Yeah, I hear you. Bruce, I hear you. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I understand. You're looking to have some stress, less stress in your life, and well, I can help you. I hear you. I hear you. That's not listening. There's passive, where you're like, hey, are you there? Hello. And there's active, listening with attention, asking defined questions, confirming the message. So how do you know when you've been heard? How do you know?
The response that a person gives or the comments a person gives can reflect what you said.
That would be correct. And the person actually has to say to you, if it's done right, Mark, yes, that is correct. Because if you repeat back to somebody, Mark, I believe what I hear you saying is that somebody has to paraphrase back or parrot back, not word for word, or paraphrase back exactly what that person is saying. Is that what you're saying, Mark? So that they can say they've heard you? When they say yes, that's really active listening. And I can tell you that I have clients that their customers tell them that you sell the exact same thing as your competitor. Exact. Your pricing is the same. It's the same for whatever reason. And they say, I'm going to go with you because you hear us. You understand us. That's how important listening is. Stephen picked up on something the other day. I'm glad he did. He saw a video that I did, and I thought it was very, very nice that he recognized that. There's something called okay and not okay. Does anybody know what that means? When you're speaking with somebody and you feel okay, how do you feel? Our job when we're communicating with someone, we're selling someone, what are we selling? We're really trying to, provide a solution for somebody, right? But we're the doctors, right? What is okay versus not okay? When you feel not okay, you feel threatened. You feel uncomfortable, ignored, insulted, let down, helpless. And salespeople and bosses, managers, spouses, they can make people feel not okay very quickly. Not using a softening statement, not saying, I appreciate that, Pamela, I hear you. Saying, you're wrong, being very critical parent. These are things we can make people feel not okay very, very quickly. That woman that was not listening and answering emails, she made me feel not okay. I'm still talking about it. She's now in my presentations. And she spends a boatload of money on marketing, and she's a nice lady, but not getting referrals. When people feel not okay, they do one of three things. They fight, they flight, and they think it over. That sounded really good, Eileen. Yep, that was a great idea. Let's connect sometime in the next few weeks. Give me a call sometime. And then we get ghosted. So when we're communicating, and let's say, hey, if we know that body language is important, but we're texting or we're emailing, there is no body language. We have to use the right words to make people feel okay and to feel special and valued and good about themselves and safe. And when we go in as the expert and we don't listen to people, like if we don't do the 70-30 rule, we reverse it. My boss doesn't care about me. That salesperson doesn't care about me. And every time I give this lesson, people think, oh, that couldn't be me. Think about it. We doing okay? Am I okay on time? I go a little faster? What would you like me to do? I got a little bit left. You okay?
You're good.
I'm good? Okay. There's something called pattern interrupt, and I'm suggesting what you do when you're communicating with people, and this may be from a selling perspective, is do the opposite of what people expect. Do the unexpected. The pattern interrupt is your differentiator. Does anybody here ever make a cold call or anything, or have to call anybody? Anybody ever do that? Yeah? What do you say when you call somebody, Stephen? How do you start?
Usually, if I were to make a cold call, I would try to get info ahead of time and prepare so that I have something to lead with that is of real concern to them and their business, or some real information to show that I put in the work and I'm not.
How do you start the call? How do you start the call?
I'd usually do something along the lines of, hey, Danny, I took a couple of seconds to look at your LinkedIn profile, and there were some things of concern on there. Do you have a few minutes? And then I'd give them a pause.
Okay.
I'd either do that, or I would do, hey, so-and-so, this is Stephen, and they would usually be like, Stephen who? And that's
Okay,
if it's
fair
like a
enough.
little warmer.
That's cool. I don't want to cut you off just for time purposes.
Yeah,
right?
good.
But I think calling and saying, hey, there's some concerns on your site. Hey, I'm just looking at stuff you're not too good at there, even though we don't know each other. I'm going to guess is probably not the best way to build rapport. I'm just in our book, right? I get it. Hey, hey, how you doing? I'm here to help. But I want to suggest to you that you may say something like, I like where you're going the second point there. Hey, by the way, hey, Stephen, it's Danny Wood from Sandler. Does my name ring a bell? Stephen, you're probably not expecting my call. Fair? No, actually, no, Danny. Would it be all right if I took a moment to tell you why I called? You tell me if we can continue or not. If you feel that there's no value, you can politely hang up. I want to interrupt the pattern I got to gain people's trust. And the way to gain their trust is to not act like a traditional salesperson. So when somebody says to you, so Bruce, why should we work with you? We're big fans of your competitor. What would you say? Or if I'm putting you on the spot and you don't want to be on the spot.
I would say
Okay.
you're putting me on the spot and I don't want to be on the spot.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. No
That's
worries.
just my natural response to something.
That's all right. Now I know why you're in Toastmasters. I'm joking. Well, that is why I say if I'm putting you on the spot, let me know. And I do not want to put you on the spot. So I'll do it. But usually people say, well, I've been in business for this long. I've got this degree. I've got this certificate. I've got this. I could do that. And I want to suggest to you that you say, I don't know that you should work with me. I don't know. At the moment, I don't know enough about you to say that I can even help. Would it be all right, Bruce, if we took a few minutes and asked each other a few questions and see if there might be a fit? But what we want to do is interrupt the pattern of what people typically do. Hey, we'd like to see a proposal. Most people say, sure. Let me boot up. We want to say it's a little premature. Well, let me understand first what you might need, then I'll know what to present. So we're somewhat qualifying in that regard. All right. So I hope there's some value in seeing how we go about doing this. If you want to create chemistry, we said earlier, people buy from people who they like and people who are like themselves. So there's something called DISC, and we give DISC assessments, but you can walk away here today with, hey, think about what your style would be. You see, if somebody is very task oriented, and by the way, there's a very good book called Taking Flight with DISC. So you could put these people in bird categories. So let's just say, for example, a D personality is a dominant driver. They're task oriented and they're active. And they're like eagles. They could be stubborn, but they make decisions quickly. So are you talking with a D? Because if you're talking with a D, and this will change your life. If you're talking with a D, you got to be more direct. They don't want a lot of small talk. They're about results and bottom line. And if you're a chitty chatty person, don't be. An I personality is active and people oriented. They're outgoing. They got the energy. They're about people. They're the Pamelas of the world, right? Pamela, you are on. That's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Unless you're a D, you think it's a bad thing, right? They're active. They're influencers, and they're parrots. They want to be around people. They're talkative. Then you've got your S-style people who are steady relators. They're the doves. They like to keep the peace. They don't like conflict. And you got your C people, task-oriented and reserved. Very numbers-driven, process-driven, don't want to be called out in public. Very accurate, very precise. And everybody has their strengths. There's no right or wrong. That's the wonderful thing about it. So these are the attributes. I shared a little bit about that. These are the I personalities. These are the S dove personalities, the steady relators. And these are the C styles. And it is your job as a salesperson, as a manager, to recognize who you're communicating with and communicate in their style. Because we have a phrase that says, at the end of your meeting, If you're communicating with someone of a different style, one of you is going to be exhausted. And it better be you. Because that means you're the one that's adjusting. Prospects don't get paid to buy from us. Salespeople get paid to be flexible. So if you're not connecting with someone and you're wondering why, it's probably because you're two different disc styles. And you're going to want to make that adjustment. And that's what I've got. A little overview of, I would call it the essential communication elements of what that's out of one of our beginner classes, a piece out of what we call the essentials. Questions, thoughts, comments?
This is a quiet group. No questions for Danny? Comments?
So what are you going to implement, Marcia? What was it? Give me one takeaway, one thing you'll start doing, stop doing that.
One
that-
thing I will start doing is paying more attention to the disc style.
Mhm.
And one thing I will stop doing is being aggressively helpful.
Mhm. Okay, very good. And what made you recognize that on the aggressively helpful? Give me an example, if you would, please.
When Stephen gave the example of with the cold call,
Yeah.
immediately my go-to conversation would be, I'm here to help you.
Mhm.
However, who says you want my help?
There you go. There
So,
you go.
yeah.
And when you say to someone you might not want my help, that's
Right.
true,
Yeah.
right? Because you're selling aspirins. You don't know if somebody has a headache, right?
And because I'm selling aspirins, everybody has to have a headache.
No, well, the issue is that's correct. The problem is when they're done talking to you, they're going to need the. No, I'm joking. No. You don't want to. No, you don't want to be the pain. You want to get the pain. But no. But what we are, right? We're in a sense fishing, right, to find the right, the right person, the right fit, right? Let's be honest. We're all not right for everybody, and we're just not. And somebody who tries to sell everybody and is optimistic about it, it's not real. We have this expression, this rule that says selling is nothing more than a conversation between two adults, nothing more, nothing less. It's an honest conversation. I could really get behind the psychology of this. It sounds simple. Hopefully it does. There's a lot of psychology in what we're talking about here today, in every piece of it, on how to have a level conversation and not have somebody be defensive in any way. Eileen, was there anything there that you learned that you're going to start doing, stop doing? Any nugget there for you of anything?
Sure, I'll try to remember the 70-30.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Listening 70%. It reminds
What do
me
you
of my
do,
dad.
Eileen? What's your business or your?
I'm a physical therapist and I'm looking to open up the business sometime soon.
Okay, wonderful.
Just really more taking in private patients.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I was at a conference in Chicago and speaking, and there was a PT conference. They were all in the elevator with me, and I'm like, I love you
Mhm.
guys. PT is amazing.
Mhm.
It's fantastic, right? When you're hurting and whatever it is, that they have their ways. So I think it's a wonderful profession. And yeah, I think that's important to do, what we're talking about here. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that the disc concept is very interesting because the only previous sales course I've taken was Mastering Influence, the Tony Robbins program. And I know he talks about people that are more visually oriented, auditory, and the kinesthetic. He goes into those things. But I thought the disc aspect was another good layer to think about those things in. And I also think that the 70-30 is something that I logically know and I think I implement a lot. It's just something that I think you have to remind yourself in sometimes in conversations with people. So I think that's something to definitely keep front of mind.
You do. You do, right? We all get emotionally involved as well, right? It's like pilot in a plane. You want to have a pre-call plan, not just on a cold call, but if with your prospect, what's your plan? And by the way, the step number one is what's their disc style, right? If you don't know, then you're off. There's software. I would even suggest you could put their LinkedIn profile or ask ChatGPT if it does. I mean, there's different softwares you can get, but what disc style do you think this person is that you're going to be speaking to? And I love the fact what you said also, Stephen. Are they VAK, visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, right? They like to see things, hear things, touch things, feel things. The more you know about people, the less you need to know about everything else. And that's what communication is, right? So I'm scared to call on you again, Bruce, but I'm gonna think that hopefully you walked away with something here today that you're gonna implement in your business.
Well, I've been a business development manager for 30 something years in the corporate world.
Good.
And I know my style.
Mhm.
Like if you were to approach me,
Yeah.
I'm a dove.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And that's how I work with people, in allowing them to feel comfortable with my energy. And that doesn't always work. And I just allow for that and move on.
Sure.
So it's more of a allowing process for me.
Mhm.
I've done the sales stuff and gone after stuff and been successful
I'm sure you have.
in the business that I'm going into now,
Mhm.
which is the recovery space.
Mhm.
It's much more about trust, which you
Mhm.
talked about. Absolutely. It's absolutely paramount, especially in the business that I work in, and allowing people to feel safe with
Yeah.
me. And that's not going after them, that's allowing them to come to me.
Absolutely.
So it's a little bit of a just big shift over the years for me,
Yeah.
and being of service as I can, and just being
Good.
there to listen and
Good.
understand what their needs are.
Well,
So
sounds
I appreciate
yeah.
your presentation as well, Danny. Thank you very much. Really do.
No, you're welcome. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you appreciate it. And I think you're probably blessed to, as I feel I am after, I was in the garment business for a long time and bought a franchise 26 years ago and love this because it changes lives. It's not about selling more. It's about helping and changes lives. But I guess my point is you're very fortunate to have found something that is really near to your to your heart, something you love and dove-like, you know what I mean? Because you need to be one in order to be sincere and be real and help, which is wonderful. So thank you. So I'm going to hand the mic back to you, Pamela, unless there's anything else that you want to say, so you can conduct the rest of your meeting. I'll hang out.
No, I thank you very much. You showed us some great examples of what good communication looks like in business, the importance of chemistry, building those relationships, the qualifying the opportunity, which I believe is key in business, and obviously closing that sale.
Mm-hmm. Closing is important. There is no, got to do the rest of the stuff for it. Closing is this much of it.
Yes.
So
One of the
if you
things,
do the other stuff right, it closes itself. You
yes,
start working hard and pushing and pressing, you're in trouble. Yeah.
one of the things I'm walking away with, just so that you know,
Yeah, please.
is the mirror and match.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually never thought of that approach before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I might practice in general, because I honestly believe that just trying to develop a relationship with someone, not just in business, but just to get a connection, the initial connection, that's something that might work.
There's family members that I have. Look, I go to Disney World. I'm an I personality and an S. And let's just go have a good time. And there's other people in my family who are like, What's the schedule? What's the plan? What time are we going to be there? I'm like, who the hell cares? We're on vacation. Let's show
Yeah.
up. Now, a lot of people, when I say this, they say to me, well, you got to be out of your mind because yeah, it's crowded. You better know what you're going to do. People have, it helps in your family as well, right? But my point is, D personalities get to it, right?
Yeah.
Talk to them and say things like, Pam, the bottom line is this. This is what you're going to be walking away with. Let's cut to the chase. Don't do that with someone like Bruce, right? Bruce, let's talk it through, right? How do you feel about it? Don't rush. You don't ever want to rush. So knowing each style, it's important. It really is.
Yeah.
Got me in a lot of trouble and it's got me out of trouble. It's got me in trouble before I knew what it was, and I'm like, I'm not so bad. I'm not nuts, But by the way, nobody's nuts. It's just what they are. The George Carlin, there was a comedian years ago who said, anybody who drives faster than me is a moron. Anybody who drives slower than me is an idiot. But that's not the case. People are just different. So,
Right.
yeah. So do that. I think that's a great lesson there, Pamela.
Okay. Well, I'm going to change the agenda up a little bit because we were going to do a little impromptu after this, but Danny kind of did that for us, Stephen, and testing the audience. And being that it is a smaller than expected audience, and he kind of did the impromptu, I'm just going to, and in the interest of time as well, I'm just going to move into why we're here and what the initiative is that the district is proposing. The vision of this business owner specialty club is simple. It's to create a space where business owners sharpen their communication skills in real business scenarios with people who understand the stakes. And what Danny presented this evening is just an example of the kinds of things that you can learn from each other. Because we all have different businesses, we all have different approaches. But if you have another person in the club who presents something that you have never thought of or presents something that works for them, is something you might want to try. You're not going to find that in a standard club. So this type of club is where speech projects are tied to business goals. We will use table topics to simulate real world conversations. And then the feedback is especially important because it will focus on influence, clarity, and outcomes. You'll learn not just how to speak, but how to be heard, trusted, and followed. We envision a community of entrepreneurs who grow together, not just as speakers, but as leaders, decision makers, and brand ambassadors for their business. By participating in this type of club, you can develop your executive presence, your confident delivery, compelling messaging for clients and teams, persuasive speaking skills for sales and negotiations, strategic feedback, and leadership communication. And absolutely the ability to speak under pressure with credibility. These aren't just Toastmaster skills, they are business critical skills. I believe a club like this is ideal for small business owners and entrepreneurs, founders, co-founders, consultants, coaches, service providers, and executives involved in business growth and leadership. Basically, anyone who is going to build a personal or company brand. So if your income, impact, and reputation depends on how well you communicate, this is the place for you. With that, I'm going to wrap us up. And I will forward some additional information if you are interested in moving forward. But I will allow you to ask any questions now if you have any. There were lots of people who registered this evening, did not show up, so it's a little difficult to get into a lot of detail. But those of you who are here, this is your opportunity to ask questions and share any of your thoughts. Are they going to be quiet, just like they were with you, Danny?
You know why? You got some SC personalities. They say that's the thing, right? And that's fine. That's usually what you get, except Marcia.
Marcia, what do you?
Marcia, I'm sorry, Marcia.
Okay. Will this club follow the same Toastmasters curriculum with the pathways and everything? Okay.
Yes, as a Toastmaster Club, you will run the same curriculum, you will do the speeches, but what you have to realize is in the specialty club, there's that flexibility on how you use what you do in this club towards that project. You can't look at a path in the black and white that a lot of people see it in. You have to get a little creative and be a little flexible in how to accomplish those goals. Mark?
Yes. As far as the speeches go, the one thing I love Toastmasters, it's come a long way in my speaking. The one question I have regarding the speeches, is there a concept or a dynamic idea as far as the way a speech topic is here versus in a traditional club? My background was to change the dynamic in which I speak. I came from a background being a probation officer. That doesn't mix well with sales. That's helped me out a lot. And the ability to off the top of my head helped me a lot. But the actual speech of 5 to 7 minutes, what are the thoughts on how to present that in this type of club?
This would, depending on your business, this would be a good training ground to practice a pitch. Maybe you have a client that you're going to meet with and you want to present a widget, for lack of a better term. You could bring this to the club and pitch that widget and get some feedback from people who are in business who maybe have experienced the same thing, but you'll get realistic feedback as they may be customers or they may have experienced customers. They know the challenges that you will be up against. So when you think of speeches, let's say it's very easy to fit anything in the writing a speech with purpose. It's very easy to fit something into an icebreaker. But when you get to those higher levels, that's when people get challenged. It's like, well, my communication style. Toastmasters has this layout on what they want you to talk about when you're doing that project on your communication style. If you're doing a business pitch or you're presenting a product to a company that you're trying to sell, you can use that project, but slightly different, where you're going to be doing the presentation and then you can get the feedback about your communication style or your leadership style. So that's what I mean. You don't have to stick in that black and white where you just do it this way. There is flexibility. People just don't always see it.
Yeah, I have having you said that, thank you for that. I have a couple ideas and that you put in my head. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Not really the cat out of the bag yet, but thanks.
I've got to run. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Pamela, for putting this up. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you being here.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
I have one question. I don't know if it's relates to
Good to see
Pamela.
you all. Thank you so much. Got to run also. Take care, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Danny.
You're welcome.
So I guess it's not relate to Pamela. That was recorded. Is it possible to access either a transcript or the video to take notes on to refer to later. I was looking
Absolutely.
at. Can I get
Absolutely.
that?
I can do that for you, Mark. Yes, no
Thank
problem.
you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a awesome evening.
You as
Hopefully
well.
you'll get some sleep, something I don't get much of these days.